and up. They've got to see that you are an artist in order to take them on that journey, right? And I shared this with the new teachers the other day, and this woman kept pushing back at me. She said, no, I'm not a theater teacher, but I use theater in my exercises, and et cetera, et cetera. And this one guy said, no, I kind of know what you're talking about. I'm a theater artist, but I got a science degree also, and I taught science in the schools for 6 years before a theater position opened up at my school. And now I'm a theater teacher. He said, did I love science? Was that my passion? No, but I faked it, right? Fake it till you make it. You've heard that kind of thing, right? But the idea being, if you don't feel like an artist every day, tough. You walk in with your kids, you owe it to them that they see you're inspired and passionate about your material, that they'll want to go on that journey with you, right? So how many of you guys consider yourselves artists? Nice. Good, good. Yeah.
I feel like there's a bigger issue at hand here about changing the connotation of theater in the educational system as a whole. So when you talk about, like you mentioned a couple of PDs that you've done for theater teachers, I feel like that's the group that sort of gets it already. But, you know, to an extent, like, do you do PDs for principals and for
Yes.
people who make the decisions from the
Thank
top?
you. Absolutely. Good question. What's your name?
Jason.
Okay. So Jason's asking about, okay, what about policy? Unfortunately, a lot of the teachers don't get it already. So I think that's an assumption. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they kind of are, they're in the kind of day-to-day, or they might not have skills in something and they're just kind of doing it. That they're not getting more training for themselves. So the PD yesterday was about training in musical theater and Shakespeare skills. But we also have the Schubert Foundation. We had funding from the Schubert Foundation to do principal arts leadership institutes. And we invite over 100 principals pretty much once a year to come. We invite a lot more, but that's kind of who comes. So they tend to be self-selected. We can't force principals to get it. So they at least have to be open to it. But this year I'll be inviting them, looks like, hopefully with the producers of Billy Elliot, to a night out. So the idea being that they'll attend an institute, and then they'll get to see Billy Elliot and talk with the cast. Now the reality is that's a sexy way to get them in the door. You know, Memphis has done great work with me on that also. Memphis producers are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Their commitment to New York City kids. But so what we did with these principals is, we've had all 4 art forms going, a workshop, and what I did was I took them on a workshop on finding student voice. I'm not going to do it with you guys right now, but the idea is that every person on this planet has a creative voice, right? How do we get it out of our students, that they feel that they have something special to offer? And I share with them my 3-year-old daughter, who, when she was 2, drew something and said, Daddy, look, I did it. And it struck me after 20 years that she simplified everything that I've been working for with young people. I did it. Right? The permanency. That I'm here. We want principals to understand that through the arts, kids can express themselves and make something that has never been made in the history of time, will never be made again, and is unique to that one kid. Right? Or that 12 kids making that theater piece. So giving the opportunity for principals to create theater and make art, process or not, you know, learn 16 bars of a song or role play, but to have them go through that process, and they inevitably always feel very open. And then I say, what do you feel about the room? And they always feel more connected to the other people, right? We know that. You do one theater exercise, and all of a sudden you're there and you're connected. So we do work on policy a lot. That is probably the hardest part. And oftentimes it's not what we think. There's very few people out there that are against the arts. It's not like principals are anti-arts, right? It's not like a system is against the arts. But the problem is it's not on the radar when we're prioritizing it. And parents oftentimes, when asked, you know, about what school do you want to send your kid to, I want to make sure they have a lot of arts, right? We hear that all the time. The challenge is getting the parents to put pressure on the principals to then say, well, my kids don't have arts. Why do they? So what's happening in the system right now, there's a decentralization. It's gotten much more at the school level. So principal by principal are making choices. So we're getting principals that totally get it, or are open to getting it, principals that might not ever want to get it, and people in between. We're trying to work on those people in between and the low end. So we've identified what we call the low arts 75. The 5% schools that have the fewest arts in their schools. And we're targeting those principals and those schools and getting them residencies with cultural partners. I'm going to the schools and meeting with them, trying to give them opportunities to see the impact that arts can have. And over the last several years, we've had art teachers placed in schools like that. Because the principal does value and realizes, wow, my kids are bouncing off the walls 8 periods a day without creative experience. You can't just give academic. The other part that we do, and so thank you for raising it because it's a great question. We do something called Making the Arts Count. And over the last several years in each art form, we've done P credit courses where teachers, non-theater teachers, can actually take a course, elementary school especially, on how to use theater in the classroom. Okay? So theater for arts integration. Because there's a reality. We want to get as many theater teachers hired as possible. But a lot of people are not hiring theater teachers. And so schools are letting elementary school teachers teach theater without any guidance. And that's the kids' experience on theater. So can we give them some training, right, so that they can do that, and hopefully then also be an advocate with the principal for bringing in theater artists and arts conversations like that. So there's multi-levels going on. Helping the street, which would be you guys, hopefully, theater teachers, right? Kind of reaching up to the principals and saying, come down and visit your theater teacher, or visit a student teacher of theater, see what's happening. Like I said, it's not chaos. It's actually very experiential, engaged learning, right? And then also working with parents and classroom teachers in support of the arts, getting them to be advocates. So there's lots of different levels happening. The PD for teachers, what I wanted to finish on that thought is that yesterday was on Shakespeare Musical Theater, but there's a year arc. So in the springtime, I'm doing 2 mini courses, 3 days in a row, intensive of musical theater and Shakespeare. So it might be speaking the speech, right? Vocal work, text analysis, and how do you rehearse and direct Shakespeare. For musical theater, it'll probably be something like acting the song, right? Some additional choreography movement, and then directing and rehearsing. The thing about theater is, if you're able to get placed, to balance the need of curriculum and those demands and quality review with the reality that what you guys do is attractive and inspiring to principals and school leaders. And if you can kind of say, yes, I will definitely put on that play. I will absolutely do a musical. Do not be afraid of that. It is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. I mean, students are actually getting a chance to make theater. You can also then say, I also want to be doing this stuff. Because that is what they know, right? They know the school play. They're safe there. You want to teach them about arts integration, process drama. You want to have those kids go through that experience too. Self-realization through theater, conflict resolution. Some principals will get this, some won't. But if you kind of promise them this can work also. So you're going to need to have those conversations. So I'd like to transition that into the finding a job thing. Like, how do you do it? So we talked about Teach New York. That's where the